From the point of view of Konstantin Buteyko, overbreathing is extremely dangerous for health, and it could be lethal. Also, from his perspective, the human body is incredibly intelligent, and it does everything it can in order to help us to live longer. You see, sometimes it seems to me that sometimes medical doctors perceive a human body as a kind of a stupid machine which gets broken all the time and it has to be fixed, which could be painful, annoying, and rather expensive. That's not how Konstantin saw the human body. Again, he thought that it's incredibly intelligent and it's really our friend, not our enemy. Since overbreathing is very dangerous, the body will do anything to stop it or to reduce it and to make us breathe less. And it's very interesting how it works in the case of many different diseases. In case of breathing difficulties, this mechanism is very straightforward. With other diseases, it's not so straightforward, but Buteyko described it and explained it very well also. But let's talk about simple things. When we take in too much air, the body would do anything to stop this process and to make us breathe less. How does it do that? Well, one thing is that it might create excessive mucus, because if the nose or the mouth are partially blocked by mucus, less air comes in. So basically the body will physically, mechanically narrow all air channels. As soon as you stop overbreathing or start breathing less, it will be no need for mucus to get produced in those excessive quantities, and it will stop. That's how people usually lose their symptoms when they switch into reduced breathing. So that's one way. Also, often a body will create a bronchospasm or a suffocation attack in order to make us breathe less. This is very typical in case of asthma or anxiety sometimes. So if you switch into gentle reduced breathing on your own, then it will be no need for your body to make you breathe less. It will be no need to create a suffocation attack. Some people have polyps in the nose, and it's another defense mechanism from the point of view of Konstantin Buteyko. Another way how the body tries to make its life longer by making a person breathe less. So there are many, almost endless defense mechanisms which medical doctors call symptoms. Of course, they are uncomfortable, sometimes even frightening, like it was, for example, in case of my husband when he had asthma. It was very scary sometimes. However, they're positive in their nature. They're really trying to help us. The main thing is to stop. The main thing is to understand the language of our bodies. And I believe that Konstantin did it so well. I totally admire him for being able to read the messages the body sends to a person. Being able to read the language of the body. So if you start breathing class on your own, it will be no need for your body to create a defense mechanism, and symptoms will disappear on their own. And it works the same in case of high blood pressure, for example, or sleep apnea, stuffy nose, and many other health conditions. As I said, the defense mechanism is more complicated in this case, but it was described by Dr. Buteyko. So following him, we believe that our bodies are our friends who are actually trying to help us. And it's important to restore the bridge between your mind and your body, to understand the language of your body better. And if you understand it, then it's easier to cooperate. It's easier to collaborate, and it's easier to achieve certain results. And one of them is strong, reliable health. Why hyperventilation, overbreathing, is harmful for our health? Konstantin Buteyko discovered that when we overbreathe, we exhale too much carbon dioxide. Basically, we lose a lot of carbon dioxide with exhalation. So when our breathing is heavy, of course we inhale a lot of air, but we also exhale a lot of air. And by doing so, we lose carbon dioxide. And as a result, the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs becomes insufficient. Well, apparently when the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs is below the norm, our inner organs don't receive enough oxygen. I'm actually not very scientific. I can't say that I like science, and therefore I don't want to spend a lot of time on explaining the theory of the breathing normalization method, as Konstantin called it. For me, well, let's say I like to use analogies. So the simplest analogy I was able to come up in order to explain the connection between carbon dioxide and oxygen is the connection between gas and oil in a car. Of course, it's impossible to drive a car if there is no gas. And we could think that oil is secondary. However, if there is no oil in the car but plenty of gas, the car would not go either. And this situation is much more dangerous, because most likely the engine will get broken and other parts of the car will get broken also if there is no oil. So the same, or I believe that this analogy works in order to show the correlation between carbon dioxide in the lungs and oxygen. If there is not enough carbon dioxide in the lung, the body is not going to run. Different parts of the body are not going to receive enough oxygen. And a person, of course, will suffer as a result of this, and most likely will have serious symptoms and develop serious health conditions. So the main goal of the breathing normalization method is to increase the level of carbon dioxide in the lungs up to its normal medical level. And Konstantin Buteyko believed that when that happens, a person becomes healthier, a person becomes healthy. He or she loses the primary symptoms of quite a few diseases. And by the way, recently I worked with an elderly person who is 80-something years old. Actually, he's quite famous. His name is Ramdas, and probably some of you are familiar with his books and teachings. And he had a stroke, and he had some speech difficulties. He lives in Hawaii on Maui, and he's surrounded by the ocean, and there's plenty of oxygen around him there, of course. And yet he had some problems with his memory as well, because his brain wasn't receiving enough oxygen. So even though he was surrounded by oxygen, his brain would not receive enough oxygen due to his overbreathing, hyperventilation. He was able to reduce his breathing by applying the breathing normalization method. And he was able to improve tremendously, actually, his abilities to express himself. He stopped pausing in between words, and his memory was greatly improved as well. So I'm using this example just to show you how it normally works with the breathing normalization method. When breathing reduction increases the level of oxygen all organs receive. Remember that Konstantin Buteyko called carbon dioxide the main regulator in the body, and he believed, and our experience shows it as well, that health is impossible basically when breathing is off balance, off norm, and that offsets all other functions of the body. And for those people for whom it's difficult to believe that overbreathing could cause major health trouble, Konstantin Buteyko recommended using the hyperventilation test. That was his invention. And I will tell you about this test. However, if you decide to use it, please be extremely careful about it, because it could be dangerous. So if you don't believe in a harmful effect of hyperventilation, try to breathe deep through your mouth, like this. And if you have any health issues, within a few minutes, you will notice that your issues become stronger, that your symptoms become more noticeable, or some other symptoms start appearing, like you might get a little dizzy, you might develop a headache, you might have pain in your chest, and many other symptoms might occur. So that's why it's necessary to be careful if you decide to use this test. And when it happens, or if it happens, please reduce your breathing, switch into nasal breathing, and try to breathe gently. And you will see that your symptoms will gradually go away. So this is a good way to check whether the breathing normalization method works or not. Just don't do it alone.